Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. And also, if you're watching this on replay, thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. We go live to have conversations that can help private practice owners to grow their practices and to share different strategies on different ideas that exist in the world that you may not be aware of. And today we're talking about maximizing the ROI on your marketing efforts. Over the past few weeks, we have been touching on marketing a lot because that is a concern that's coming up for some private practice owners as they think about growing. They're thinking about what else do I need to do or what other marketing initiatives we can take on. And as I always share, I may not have all the answers, but I can find persons who can. If you're new here, I am Michelle O'Connor, your business growth strategist, and I help entrepreneurs, solo private practice owners to grow their practices. And I have our special guest that I'm going to bring on stage now. Carl, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. Good to see you again.
Same here. So it's a pleasure to have you. So I brought the expert guys. Carl is a HIPAA compliant healthcare marketing guru, I would call him, or specialist. And he also hosts the podcast Practice Care. And he shares a lot of strategies, interviews persons as well who can share strategies with you. And I'll just have him share us a little bit about what he do and who he does it for.
Sure. Thank you very much. The company's called Market Advisory Group. 2 words, Market Advisory, then Group. We zero in on helping private practice owners. And we say we're a healthcare marketing agency, whether it's medical, dental, chiro, whatever. If you are a provider of a healthcare service of one type or another, and you own the practice, we'd like to help you if you feel you need it. I've been doing marketing in healthcare forever. I've had one job in my working life, going back to when I was a kid that was not somewhere in the world of commercial healthcare, whether it was a family-owned business. My dad was a pharmacist. Back when you could find independent pharmacies, that was what he did. I worked in the store. You just kind of marinate in it. You don't really know what's going on when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And then, professional life, I worked in large corporate America for like 15 years, a variety of different types of therapeutic areas. Learned a lot, all marketing, upstream, downstream, you name it. And then 7 years ago, I launched Market Advisory Group. So sort of a third chapter, I guess.
Yeah.
But always marketing in healthcare, commercial healthcare, one way or another.
That's good to know. So guys, that you have someone who has been in the business, even from you as a child. So he has the answers. So
I'm going to let you think that.
I'm sure you do, or we know where to get it from. So as I prepared for this live, there's a question that I shared that popped up in my mind. When we talk about marketing ROI, what does that mean?
That means that for every dollar you put into marketing, a good ROI says you should get more than $1 back, and it kind of where it becomes. The importance of that is, how do you measure that? I can tell you what we do is we try to count new patients, whether it's new patients through, a contact form on the website. So they're almost new. They haven't quite committed. If we can actually count the new patient registrations, we do. But one way or another, for every dollar you put into marketing, eventually, and not so long, depending, you should get more than $1 back.
Yeah, and I think that is important for persons. I think that the measurement of your efforts should be key. And sometimes we're busy in the doing that we don't pause to think about, okay, I've done all of these things. What has been the return? Mm-hmm. If it's spending money on a website to create, as you just shared, a form for persons to, add their names or book an appointment, did it work? And I think that is very important for persons to remember that measurement is also key. And we're going to get to that shortly. But from your experience, what you've been doing, private practice care owners, marketing is a need for them. What's the first thing you normally ask when you're speaking to someone about their marketing? They approach you for marketing. What's the first thing that you normally ask them for?
Yeah, and there's 2 questions that get to the heart of it. The first one is, so what's on your mind? It's good to understand just what are they thinking of? Why are we talking today? The real heart of the question that I want to know ultimately is, Dr. X, you have a lot of competition or some competition in your area. What's different about you that's valuable to patients? Because your patients, they have choices. So why do
Yeah.
they choose you? Why do they stay with you? It's a question that not a lot know the answer to. Sometimes they've got a real, and I call that a core difference. I'm not the only one who uses that term,
Yeah.
but just like a pivotal difference. And sometimes they have it, it's just buried alive. They either don't appreciate it, they've tried to express it one reason or another. They've got something to work with. We just need to bring it to the surface. Occasionally they don't. They don't. And so you have to figure out, what are we going to do about that? Are we going to try to create something that's authentic? It's got to be that way. And if you don't, then there's other ways to win in the marketing game. But when you are similar to everyone around you, and let's face it, two OBGYN practices, there's similarities, please. I mean, they
Yeah.
both are serving the same. There's some similarities you can't get away from, you shouldn't try to. But is there something about you that's one of the reasons, an important reason why patients choose you instead of them? Let's see what it is. Let's see if it's something tangible, if it's something we can work with, and let's start shouting it from the rooftops. So I really want to know those things. There's more. There's a lot more. What we do is, I have this large battery of questions. I don't just start proposing marketing stuff the moment I meet you. That's irresponsible in my opinion. But the heart of it is, so what's on your mind and why do they choose you and stay with you?
I love that, Carl, because it's almost when I start working with a client, I want to know their why. I want to know, what's the reason for doing this, to the point where I remember I had a client who, she was just doing it because her parents were doctors, and it was just a natural thing for her, but she's really into art and
Mm-hmm.
she loves doing art.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually what she ended up doing was creating this wonderful art book for kids with autism.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is something innate, something inside that should really drive what you're doing. And as you share on the marketing side, what makes you different. And I love when you said it's buried deep, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the things that differentiate us, we don't think that it's a huge differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my son's pediatrician, I valued the fact that she was on time all the time. And how she ran her practice, she was always on time, and you never ever felt rushed
Mm-hmm.
when you were in her office.
Yeah.
And that is something that is good, because you either don't find that a lot, or if they're on time, you're in the dentist chair and you can tell that, listen, the clock is running, you need to be out of this chair in 45 minutes, right? So I completely agree that there is something that makes you different, and taking the time to find out can put you above and set you up for to win.
And just to put a fine point on it, it's a difference that has to be valuable. It's got to be both. If you're different in a way that nobody cares about, who cares? And if you're valuable in a way that everyone else is, you really don't have much. It's got to be a difference that's valuable. So for you, they're different in that they're on time. And the reason you were just so effusive about it is because you clearly value that. So you've got something, and you're probably not the only one. So you've got something. There's other reasons about things that make a good, valuable difference, but you got to check those two boxes first.
And how you find out, because persons may be wondering, how do I find out? You ask your patients.
Yes.
I mean, my pediatrician, the pediatrician has never asked me, but maybe she asks patients who were before and found out that is something that they love. But ask your patients. That is why we have their information. You get their permission to use it to communicate with them.
In fact, start with yourselves. Interview yourselves. I've got a client. We just finished up this kind of project. We talked to all the doctors. Who gave us the most insight was the practice manager and the front desk people. They knew more about. Because the doctors are just so, in there, and this is not a criticism, but they're just very much in their clinical world. All doctors are. These few are just kind of off the charts with it, and they kind of had it, but it was the other folks that really, I got to see it, and I thought, oh, that's what you mean. And then after that, once you've got like a hypothesis, this is what we think it is. Go see what patients say. Yeah.
It's funny because when you think about it, the persons at the front desk, they're checking in the patients, they're having conversations when they're making their payment, and they're listening to their conversations as they sit and wait. Like that is the most honest.
Oh yeah.
Patients you can be sitting there, you're on the phone having a conversation, you're talking about how you're feeling about waiting long, or what you like and what you don't like.
So I'm stuck at the doctor's again. That's all you need to hear. That's a problem. And whoever said that is not the only one who feels that way. Oh yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Maybe the other persons are texting.
Yep.
I
It doesn't have to be
find
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that there is so much we can gather from our patients, or,
Yeah.
by just asking them.
Yeah.
And as you said, asking the persons at the front desk what
Yeah.
they think.
Yeah.
But as you say, I think because the doctors are so laser focused in offering the care, the
Mhm.
business side is what sometimes gets
And
left
some are
behind.
better than others, but you become a product of your day. And if your day is treating people all day, you're not as in tune with the rest of
Yeah,
it. And you're not hanging out in the lobby, anyway, so you don't hear all the chatter. And so yeah, it's again, it's not a criticism. It's just sort
yeah.
of,
It's just
what
what it is.
yeah.
When I worked in corporate, we used to have what we call like a CEO day, where a CEO would actually go into the branches and
Wow.
interact with the team, and he loved it because that is just where you find all the information. It's not in the boardroom. Management isn't on the floor, to be
No,
honest.
no.
So therefore, there's not much they can give you about what your clients need.
Yeah.
But when you get it from the persons who are on the ground, it's just magic and it lasts forever.
You know who hated those days are all that CEO's direct reports, because then the
Yeah.
CEO comes back and says, I saw all this stuff and I want you to work on it. And they're like, their day's blown up. Yeah.
And sometimes they knew what it was, right? They're
We
just
all braced. I wasn't a direct report ever, but the CEO's going to visit a plant. We're like, all right, let's get ready. What's he going to see?
yeah. So for the private practice owners that you serve, do you
Mhm.
find that they understand the importance of marketing when you start working with them, or is it a challenge to get them there to see the value?
So when they get to me, there's a problem that they've, one, acknowledged, and two, that they want to do something about, which is we're not as busy as we need to be. And unless you feel that way, one, and want to do something about it, two, then you're not ready. You're not ready to make the investment, put
That's
whatever
good.
time I ask for. So those do, and that's not unlike any other problem. When I started 7 years ago, I never doubted that business owners, people in general, will tolerate massive amounts of pain before they're willing to change something. But when you see it play out, you're like, wow, I guess that person just isn't enough pain yet. That's what I say to myself when I say, they're not ready. Sometimes it's just, I did a poor job of making whatever, but it's, those two things have to be true. But marketing, for the most part, unless you're doing some like really one-off tactical things, ultimately the job of marketing is to grow it.
Can you repeat that for me? Like they're not in enough pain. That
They're
part?
not enough pain. They don't perceive enough pain, and the amount of pain. And you and I are guilty of this.
Yeah.
Guilty. You and I exhibit this same behavior too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's just things that some expert for some other part of the world would come in and look at Market Advisory Group and go, "What the heck are you doing, man? This is horrible." Like, yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And until you feel some sort of pain that gets you to go, I can't do this anymore. You could be convinced. I have learned that I am not going to be able to convince somebody of the need to do marketing on an ongoing, regular basis unless something inside of them has said, yeah, I kind of already agree with that. I've tried. Maybe I just haven't found the right words. I've tried. But there has to be enough pain for somebody, especially doctors in marketing. My God, oil and water. I mean, there's two worlds. Those two circles are nowhere close to touching each other. So there's got to be enough pain where they go, oh, marketing can do that. And unless that's there, so far, I'm striking out every time. So I just try to find the people who are already, are like, I need some help.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk,
And it's the same, when I have conversation with persons, they're like, Michelle, I've been in this business for 25 years. I can't go as hard as I used to go when I was in my 20s or in my early 30s. Right now, I'm just looking to do something. And I think that's where the pain comes in.
Yeah.
I have other passion projects that I want to work on, but I feel like I'm trapped by my practice. I need help. So I think that's they really need to get there. You really can't say to them, hey, you know what, you need a business consultant, or hey, you need marketing help.
Yeah.
They have to feel it and know it. And as you said, for us, it's the same. I've had persons reached out to me for different services and I've said no. And it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I did get an email from that person. Let me have a conversation.
Hmm.
So, it works both ways, guys, if
Yeah.
you're watching on. So it's no judgment zone or anything. It's just a reality of life. And
Hmm.
it can go for anything. It can go for your health, for your weight management, whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
you're going after. So how do you, so you talk about finding out what differentiates them.
Hmm.
What are some of the ways that you have helped persons to market their private practice?
Usually for the clients that we find, they're already good at what they do. So let's just pick on pediatrics or OBGYN, since I said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Um, they're good at what they do. And how do you know that? They've been in practice long enough where you could say reasonably, if you weren't that good, your doors would be closed. It's not exactly true, but it's a pretty good proxy. It's just that today, not even new today, far from it, when people hunt around for an OBGYN, where do they go? They go online. They try to find out information about you. And you, Dr. X, your practice is really, really hard to find. It's really, really hard to learn about, and the way in which people want to learn about it today. In real life, you have a solid, really great reputation. Online, you've got practically no reputation. You have a gap. Let's close the gap and keep it closed. And so that's what we do a lot of is in healthcare, at least. There's not much promotion per se. I mean, yes, there are those out there that have seasonal sales on this sort of service or that sort of service. But for the most part, the types of clients that we work with have patients who choose them and hope to never have to switch. You choose doctors that, for the most part, you hope to stay with forever. And so the promotion is a lot of education about who they are, what makes them good, what makes them valuable, a lot of education in the community. That's what people want from somebody that they want to build trust with. So let's just give it to them, and let's make sure that we give it to them in a way that it's better and more authentic and more often, frankly, than their local competition. And so far, knock on wood, good things happen. More patients come, more patients call, and it works. It works. It's. I find it's the way. It's very easy for the clients that we have to say yes, because it's the type of thing that they would like to do more of anyway. I wish more people knew about us, not because I'm great and my competitors suck. No, it's because I really think we're really, really helpful and really, really
Yeah.
good. We just have to figure out a way to say that, so to speak. Let's
Yeah.
go all day long. I love it.
It's all in the communication. And I was just about to say that as well, because when it is that you're good at something, it's about getting the word out.
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting the word out. And I found that when you're able to just already work with what you have, then the marketing becomes way more easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Like
trying to find something new.
for a former client, OBGYN, they were amazing with VBAC, a particular type of procedure for women who have had a cesarean before. So what they could have done is they could have just shouted from the rooftop, so to speak, we're the best at VBAC. But that's not what we did. We just wrote a lot of blogs about VBAC, different ways to think about it, different considerations, kind of a basic education. And you know what everybody said? Wow, you guys must be really good at that, because look at all this. Yes, we are. And we just chose to show you in a way that helped you too. And, if it helped you and you didn't come in, fine. We'd rather
Yeah.
you come in, but we're here to contribute.
I always say to persons that just think about the conversations you have on a daily basis, what persons are asking you about, what they're applauding you about, and share that information.
Yeah.
There are persons who
Yeah.
are, oh, I need to be on TikTok, I need to be here. I'm like, you don't even know if your patients are there.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Yes. Why? Do they go there? Yeah. Yeah.
And they may go and they're entertained and they move on, but are they selecting you because of that? So it's really talking to the persons who are there in,
Yeah.
your patients who are coming in. So I really love that.
Yeah.
So when you have now implemented the marketing strategies, I know we touched on the measurement and you did indicate that you're measuring number of new patients. What are some of the other ways that they can measure the marketing, the return on the marketing efforts?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's sort of, the new patients is like the lagging indicator, right? That's the result of all the other stuff. When we work with clients, we tally those up every month. We meet every month and we say, here's the numbers, here's how things went. And then, here are the topics we're going to talk about today. What's on your list? What's on my list? When it comes to measurement, it's a lot of visibility, right? It's a lot of the stuff that people go, oh, it's vanity. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. You can do that. We choose not to bury our clients alive in all the data that are available to us to do so. We look for traffic as traffic going up to the website. Some clients want to know what pages they're looking at. It's funny, we show them that and then nobody ever has any questions. And I look at, how many people came to the website, how many pages did they look at? And let's just
Yeah.
assume that most people came with noble intent, whether they stayed a long time or not. And we'd like to see those numbers going up over time. Eventually they're going to sort of, hit their ceiling, but let's keep it there then, because you got to keep it there too. The point I want to make is one thing to close that gap I mentioned earlier, you got to keep it closed. It doesn't stay closed on its own. So we look at website traffic, we look at social traffic, we count up the number of reviews that they got. I like to do newsletters with clients, as many as will take it, because it's a great way to remind patients that you're still there. Out of sight, out of mind is a very powerful force. And a newsletter, again, it's educational. But tell every client, if all they did was open it up, see your logo, and then delete it, there's the victory. If they get more value out of it, great. So we look at, newsletter engagement, and we look at these things and we say, all right, the community that we're trying to get engaged with us is, and it's staying that way. And so the new patients eventually ought to flow. We look at also some SEO metrics, like with most clients, we look at, keyword rankings. Are they showing up high enough where they ought to be? And so together, when you put it together, we say the visibility and the rankings look like you're certainly more visible. You're certainly a lot easier to find than you used to be. The one thing we can't guarantee is that anybody's going to choose you now anyway. We just don't control the person who's seeing all that.
Yeah.
But if you're good at what you do, and we solve all the issues we should solve with trustability and findability and choosability and these other things, then more people ought to choose you.
They ought to choose you.
They ought to. Yeah.
They ought to. And when you shared about the newsletter, one of the things I do as I subscribe to newsletters, I'm not always able to read them, but I have a particular folder that I put them in. So based on the topic, this looks like it's important, or this looks like something that I would read. I don't have the time. Let me put it here.
Yeah.
Or I remember
you sound like more of a super newsletter user than most, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and you never can tell. Maybe you see the topic and the logo, and it sounds interesting. You're not ready for it, but as for me, maybe I remember seeing that information, and I like the newsletters because as a doctor or physician, we aren't just coming, or your patients aren't just coming because they're sick. They want to know that you care. They want to know that you're providing them with information. So, for example, for some places, school may have started back, or you're getting ready to go to school. What are some of the things that you want parents to think about for their children if you're a pediatrician? We go into certain months where you're celebrating, or you're bringing awareness to a certain body part. You can think of 4 topics and you can send 4 emails, 4 newsletters, one per week or 2, whichever one works for you. But think about your patients as persons that you truly care about and you want to help. And serve them and communicate with them that way. So that you're not waiting until the end of the month to look at the lag indicator. Oh, we didn't get anybody in. What are those lead measures that you're tracking, and what are those lead activities that you're doing to put yourself in front of your patients?
And then one thing we do is I'm sure we're not the only ones who do this. We track all this data over time. So if I've got a client that's been with us for 4 or 5 years, I've got 4 or 5 years worth of data. So in June, we don't know why, a bunch of clients had lower visibility numbers. Like enough where you went, what's going on there? Bounce back in July. What's the first thing we did? Well, what happened last June and the June before that? We could say, oh, something funky about June. It just seems to be, okay, let's move on. Like it wasn't, is this a problem, or is it just the way the market seems to operate in June? And then we moved on. And so,
And that is what data does. It gives you information to make decisions.
The data don't lie. Yes.
It doesn't lie. So it's not that, and you get to use it because you're looking at data over the year. So it's not that you're going to think of, oh, what can we ramp up in June? Maybe June is just a slow month because that's
June's
what
just,
the years have shown. It's like when I was in finance, we were clear that there were some quarters or months within quarters that would be slow. It's just what it is. Summer probably is one of them. Close to Christmas is one of them. It's just what it is. So, and that is where planning comes in place. So you plan accordingly for the other quarters, because you have an end of year goal. You just work with it. You're not going to try and
find reality. Let's go.
And force them to do anything else. You're just going to serve them that way.
Right.
So as we talk about marketing strategies,
Mhm.
I did share with persons that you're a HIPAA compliant
Mhm.
marketing strategist. What does that mean, and why is it important as persons think about their marketing journey?
So HIPAA is a law. HIPAA is a body of law. I'm no healthcare attorney, so don't hold me to the specifics of what to say, but it's a law that every doctor, dentist, anybody who provides care, healthcare, has to live by. And the heart of it is that when you as a patient provide your provider with personal information, much of that personal information has to be protected under not just privacy laws, but also HIPAA laws.
Mm-hmm.
For marketing, and anybody that you share, you as the provider, anybody that you share that data with, you can't just give it to them. You've got to give it to them in ways that are HIPAA compliant, which means certain levels of security, only certain types of sharing. You can't just share it with somebody until legally you've entered into an agreement, which is a separate agreement from your services
Right.
agreement. It's called a business associate agreement. You've got to have that in place. Either it's better if you, the provider, can give one to these, to your vendors to sign. Most of my clients don't have one, so we had one prepared. But you've got to have that in place. Both of those things have to be in place, and then at that point, you can start sharing information. Marketing and HIPAA can overlap, just like lots of things in HIPAA and can overlap. For example, we ask for reviews on behalf of our clients. We don't physically call anybody up, but we have a system, a tool that we plug in, and our clients use it to try to get more reviews from their happy patients.
Mm-hmm.
I can find enough healthcare attorneys that will tell me that if you've got somebody's cell phone number in their name, you're in HIPAA land. It's a tiny little crumb of protected health information, but it still counts.
Yeah.
The authorities don't care if you have gobs of, maybe they do, if you have gobs of PHI or tiny amounts, but I don't want to find out. And so you've got to do that in a HIPAA compliant way. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. And I've seen some shuddering moments where I just see practices do certain things that are not HIPAA compliant, and others that are pretty good at it. And so, but we just make sure that we put a HIPAA compliant relationship in place. All of our third-party providers are HIPAA compliant. Our practices are HIPAA compliant. We go through an audit every other year. Anybody could look at us and go, "Yeah, you check all the right boxes. You are good. You are kosher to have information shared with you, and go." But so many, I'll call generalist marketing agencies. They serve a variety of industries. That's fine.
Right.
But so many of them have a couple of dentists, a couple of chiropractors, a couple of this, a couple of that. And it's very, very likely that there's not a HIPAA compliant relationship in place. And I'll tell you what, do you actually have to have a data breach in order for, to be in trouble? No, there are stories out. That's the worst, but there are examples out there of practices that simply didn't have that legal agreement in place. Nothing bad happened. They got audited and they got fined, like painful fines.
Mm-hmm.
These are not light and dusty raps, on the wrist. Painful fines. And why would you want that? It's just, why would you want that? So I think it's just more of a less a lack of awareness.
Yeah.
And so we can put these things in place and then just move on.
Yeah, and I wanted you to share it because I wanted persons to understand that it's not just anyone who is approaching you. You want to ensure you're treating your practice as a business. As such, any laws that governs your practice, you want to be aware of that.
Yeah.
I had
and every doctor is aware of HIPAA, of course.
Yeah.
It's just this blind spot about HIPAA and marketing overlapping.
Yeah. I had this person reach out to me to do some work, and I asked them to send me some references and some stuff that they were doing. And one of my cues for marketing especially is if somebody isn't asking you about your strategy, then they're really not going to help your business. They're just applying something that they've applied to other persons.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted you to touch on it, because persons need to be aware. So you're setting up your business to last for a very.
We talked earlier about you have to feel enough pain to change something.
Yeah.
Please don't. The pain you will feel from a HIPAA violation is not the pain you should want to experience first before you do something about it. Just ask your marketing agency if you're doing this. So are you HIPAA compliant? Do we have what we need? It's not the greatest question, but you really ought to know this. And you're just kind of do what you will if you're not have a HIPAA compliant thing going on, but You're just, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's going to be painful. But the
Yeah.
odds that you get slapped, probably not that great, but it's going to hurt a
And
lot
like
if
insurance, you
you
want to have
do.
it just in case.
Yeah. It's why you have insurance. Yeah, exactly. It's,
You want to have it.
yeah.
Well, we're almost at 30 minutes.
Wow, that's
Conversations can
fast.
can go on. But is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers about
Um,
marketing and their ROI before we go?
I just measure stuff, check it every once in a while, give things time to develop. Marketing should be done consistently. If you're not gonna, it just takes time to penetrate somebody's mind, penetrate a market, change their thinking about you, and then keep it that way. So if you're thinking about, I'll make it up. I'm gonna do social media for a month, and if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna stop. Save your money and save your time. I can tell you right now, it's just not gonna work. We already know this. So you have to be willing to do it consistently over time. This is what we do with clients. We have a religious devotion to consistency. Every client gets a plan. Each plan is personalized after this large battery of questions. You know what's in it. You know what's going to be there. You know what it's going to cost. And then we just run it religiously every month because we know that's what it takes. Unless you are in a brand new town and you're the only one who does what you do and the need is massive, this is what it takes.
Yeah.
So nobody's really like that. God bless you if you are. The rest of you have competition and you have a population and you have busy people who it takes time. So give it the time that it needs, and look for people who can help you that way. And that just means more of a sustained investment. That's fine. The other thing about us is we're month to month. There's no, we're going to lock you in for a year. There's none of that. We want to stay working with people because we like each other and it's working. We're not a hostage taker. And so if it's not working, that's fine. But I mean, these are the things you should know, in my opinion. You should be ready to commit to going into, I want to do marketing, because it's not Carl saying this is the way the human mind works. It just takes time to penetrate, time to get people to think differently about you, and time to keep it that way. That's for
Yeah.
anything, not just marketing. So just
That's
be
so
prepared.
true. And I've dropped Carl's LinkedIn
Ah,
contact in the chat. You can go ahead and connect with him on LinkedIn. And I appreciate it. Give things time. And I love how clear you are. If you're just going to do it for a month, save your time and save your money. There is absolutely nothing that we do in life where you can gather data in a month. It takes time.
yeah.
And it takes time for you to gather the data, analyze it, check on trends, see what's working, see what's not working, so you can know what you need to continue
Yeah,
doing.
just think about your own patients. When a patient comes in and there's something consequential you think they need to change about their life, is it really going to happen in 2 weeks? Most likely not. You need them to commit to it over time. This is the same thing.
Yeah. It's not taking the medication today and you feel better today, so you stop tomorrow. It's taking it for the time period that you
Right.
work with.
Then once you achieve the goal, you got to stay there. You're going to revert. You got to stay there too.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay
Yeah.
there on it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't stay there on its own.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Carl. And I hope that our viewers got something that you can think about, something that makes you more aware of what you're doing, so you can apply in the end. Because if you are able to apply marketing strategies that are directly linked to your values and your goals, showing up becomes a lot easier because you're focused and you're very intentional on with your actions, and you're not just trying to do the next thing to see if it works. You're picking a thing to do, you're staying consistent, you're measuring, and you can make changes if you go along. So thank you so much, Carl. This was great.
Thank you, Michelle. I
And
agree. Thank you.
thank you. And guys, if you have any questions, if you're watching the replay, go ahead. We do check back to see what persons are saying. If you have questions, we are able to answer you. So go ahead and drop those in or right below the video, depending on where you're watching from. And I'm also just going to leave my calendar information here as well. If you're interested in booking a consultation, we look forward to talking to you. So thank you again. And it's almost the end of summer for those who are joining live. Some have gone back to school, but we're into the end of August. Continue to enjoy, and I hope you found some time to rest and relax as you get ready to get back out for the last quarter of the year. Ciao.